All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for joining me. We'll go ahead and get started here. So, if you got a question, go ahead and post it. It will be, if you're on a normal device like laptop, computer, or something like that, be on the right hand side. You'll see where you can post your questions. From a mobile device, it may be below the video there. But we'll go ahead and get started here with Mark C. And if you were on here earlier, like I see Robert H., Everett, James P., Jim M., you posted questions over the weekend or more than an hour before the office hours started, then just repost your question. I start with questions that were posted up to an hour before. And Mark C's question is posted at 51 minutes ago, whereas Robert H posted his question at 12:30 this afternoon. So I won't start with that question. I just do that to make sure that I'm answering questions for people who are here. So it's likely that I may come back and answer your question only if there's enough time, but it's not likely that that will happen. Looks like we got quite a few questions here. So we'll go ahead and get started here with Mark C. Mark C says, Clay used to teach square shoulders at impact, then post up and release with rotary swing. Now seems to teach opening up the body more. Is there a difference? So I'm not 100% familiar with what rotary swing taught or anything like that, but I will say it's probably very much the same. It's just that the chest is actually open. The shoulders are going to be relatively square to slightly open. If you look at most tour players, or what we found in most tour players, the shoulders, when we're talking socket to socket here, when we're talking the shoulders here are slightly open at contact typically. 10 to 12 degrees, I would say, is about the average that we see. You'll see some tour players with their shoulders are square, but most of them are going to be a little bit on the open side. I've seen some where they're very open, but that might be if they're trying to hit a cut and or something like that. And if they're trying to hit a draw, you might see the shoulders close a little bit. But typically on a stock shot, you're going to see the shoulders open about 10 to 12 degrees. So let's keep, the shoulders are not the same as the chest. The chest is open on all of these shots. So the reason why it may look like the shoulders are square is because our shoulders can move independently of our rib cage here. So our rib cage is kind of what I'm talking about. Your sternum, that can move independently. So I can actually take my shoulder here and go like that, right? I can push my shoulder forward, and I can also retract my shoulder back, and that's called protraction and retraction of the shoulders. So if you watch here, I'm going to have my chest. I'm going to keep my chest pointed in that direction, and I'm going to protract my lead shoulder. So I'm protracting. This is my shoulder blade moving away from my spine. Protract my lead shoulder, and I'm going to retract my trail shoulder. And when I do that, my chest is still pointing straight forward in the same direction, but it looks like my shoulders are very closed, right? Well, that's what's happening when we're coming into contact. My lead shoulder is protracted, and my trail shoulder is a little bit retracted, but my chest is actually opening up. So that's really what we're teaching. I imagine it was the same thing at rotary swing, but maybe just explain in a little different way. So if your shoulders are relatively square, then that's fine. It's really just the chest and the hips that need to be opening up. The average tour player, when we look at them, basically shoulders are going to be roughly about 10 to 12 degrees open, and you don't need to go out there and try to work on getting exactly 10 to 12 degrees open with the shoulders. It's really that's just basically what we see typically. If you're square, you're good. If you're a little bit slightly open, then that's fine too. If you're a little bit closed, that's fine. What we don't want to see is where the shoulders are like this as you're coming into contact. Really, really close. You're most likely too far angled away. And typically, if you have your spine angles correct, those shoulders are going to end up being in the right spot anyway. So if you're more open, that's typically going to result in a spine angle that's more angled toward the target, leaning toward the target, and ending up in over the top kind of swing, the shoulders opening up a ton. So typically, if your spine angles are good, like we talk about in the system, you're going to end up having proper shoulder angles, or when you're looking from down the line, you're going to be square to slightly open typically. So that's what I would really focus on, is getting the spine angles correct, and that's going to get those shoulder angles correct as well. So, but I would say most likely it's not really going to be probably much of a difference there. All right, so David F. says, what are the best tips and drills to perfect the straight line release, particularly the path of the hands from the top of the release? My downswing, my hands tend to get stuck behind me, then go around me too quickly right after contact. So I'd say the best drills to perfect the straight line release are going to be in the straight line release course, but also you need to make sure that you're nailing all the other pieces of the top speed golf system before you do the straight line release. This is a common mistake that I see people make, especially students that come to me with swing reviews. They may tell me, I get a lot of students that come to me and say, hey, I'm working on my straight line release, but their spine angles aren't good. Their shoulder turn isn't good. They don't have any lag in the swing. They're casting the club. Their compression line, they're bumped out. I mean, it wouldn't be one student doing all of those things, but those are just some common things that I see with people who say they're working on the release. And the reality is that they're not really ready for that yet. They're not at that point. You need to make sure that the other pieces of the top speed golf system are in place first, because if your spine isn't stable, so what I mean by stable fluid spine is if I'm angled away at address, I'm talking about from the face on position, I want to see that nice and angled away at address, about 6 to 8 degrees. That's what we like to see. As you go up to the top, we like to see the overall angle of your body as you're going up to the top. We like to see that remain about 6 to 8 degrees as you go up to the top. And then as you come down and into impact, we want to see that angle get more angled away about 20, 25 degrees. So that's going to look something like this. If I look at the center of my hips, center of my shoulders, we can see I'm going to be about 20, 25 degrees as I come into contact. If I am coming into contact and I'm basically vertical as I'm coming into contact, my spine angle is like this. I'm going to want to release the club right there. I'm not right here in front of me. I'm not going to want to release that club out here, out in front. So you can't really release the club out in front if your body is not opening up and your spine angle is not getting angled away as you're opening up. You're going to want to release that club early at the golf ball. So you may need to go work on the stable fluid spine course if you are seeing that. So that's number one. You got to be doing good with your spine angle. Number two, with your power turn. I know this may seem like completely unrelated to the straight line release, but it does play a role. If you are having a short turn, meaning I'm just swinging kind of all arms in the backswing, I'm not turning my shoulders, it's just hard to have a proper downswing. You're going to tend to rush the downswing. You're going to tend to want to swing. If you don't use your body, your lower body, to turn in the backswing to get a good hip turn and get your shoulders back here, you're going to tend to do the same thing in the downswing. If I go like this in my backswing, I'm going to tend to just throw my arms at it in the downswing, and that's going to be an early release. So you got to make sure that you're getting a good shoulder turn. Not to mention, if you don't get a good shoulder turn, you are leaving so many easy yards out there, because that's one of the best things that you can do to increase your distance is getting a good power turn. So highly recommend. You're just not going to see very many tour players with a shoulder turn that's like this. And sure, Tony Finau, John Ram, they may have short shoulder turns, but they're also swinging 120 miles per hour. If you can swing 120 miles per hour with a short shoulder turn, then great. Then that's what you should do. That's completely fine. But if you're swinging 85, 90, 95 miles per hour and you're looking for more distance and you have a short shoulder turn, you need to lengthen that shoulder turn. And you need to get that full shoulder turn so you can get your speed and distance. Tony Finau, he could hit the ball further if he got a bigger shoulder turn. But he swings 120. He doesn't need to. He actually posted a video on Instagram. I didn't see it. Robin told me about it. He posted a video on Instagram after he watched the long drive stuff, and he actually brought the club up to parallel, and he got a bigger shoulder turn, and he swung 136 miles per hour. So that's some club head speed right there. So if he swung longer, he could swing. He could be the fastest guy on tour. He just being at 120 is where he wants to be. That's where he likes his game, from what it looks like. So more power to him there. So got off on a tangent there on the power turn, but definitely want to make sure you have the power turn. Now lag, right? We have to make sure we have lag. What I'm talking about for lag is I want to see this angle between my lead arm and the shaft, I want to see that getting sharper as I'm coming down in the downswing. I have this angle at the top, and I want to see that getting sharper as I'm coming down like that. So if this angle is getting bigger, I'm already releasing the club right here. I have basically no chance of releasing that out in front. I'm almost guaranteed to release that at the golf ball. So you got to make sure that you're generating lag in the downswing. Your compression line. So when we talk about the compression line, that's the line at impact that goes from our lead ankle, our lead hip, and our lead shoulder. And we want that to be angled away, all in a straight line, and slightly angled away from the target as we're coming into contact, just like this. That's what we want it to look like. Nice straight line there as we're coming in. So if I'm coming into contact and I'm going like this, my hip is bumped out, right? I'm bumped out. I can't rotate my body, and I'm going to end up releasing that club early. If I can't rotate, I will release the club early. You just can't get the hands in front of your body. When you're rotating your body, your hands are staying behind you as you're coming through. My hips are out in front. I can't get my hands out like this in front of my body. It's just not going to work. You won't be able to do it at full speed. You may be able to do it for a really slow swing like that, but when full speed is going on, you can't get your hands in front of your body. Your hips are leading the way, and the hands are trailing behind, and that's allowing the club, allowing the hands to get in front of the ball as you're coming through, because your hips are out in front there. So if you imagine, if I were to take this club and swing this club and then just stop my hand, what's this club going to want to do? It's going to want to flip forward, right? So that's the same thing that's happening. When I come in and I stop my hips, if I bump my hips, they just get all jammed up and I can't rotate. My arms are just going to want to go like that, and I'll flip through contact. And that's going to be an early release. So you can't do the straight line release unless you're doing the other four pieces first. So make sure you're on the good track there with the four pieces. That's the first thing that I would do. And then you mentioned that in your downswing, your hands tend to get stuck behind you, then go around me too quickly right after impact. So it sounds like you're getting maybe too much spine angle. So too much spine angle, getting too far angled away. So look at your spine angle. When you get too far angled away, you may get this club a little bit behind you a little bit. You may have this club too flat and getting the hips kind of out of sync with the upper body. Your elbow kind of getting stuck behind you a little bit, and then you don't really recover. You're going to tend to flip this club or release that club or hit a big old snap hook or a block out to the right. There's all kinds of things that you may do there. So get that elbow working into the body. Get that elbow working in to your side as you're coming down, and that will help out a lot better to get this club in a nice shallowed out position. You may be coming down steep. So number one, what I would do is I would make sure that you're nailing all those first pieces. You have to be nailing those pieces. The first piece is the top speed golf system, stable fluid spine, power turn, lag, compression line. You got to be nailing those four pieces first before you go on to the fifth piece. And then, if you're nailing those things, and it's really just your elbow getting stuck behind you, then I would do some drills, I'd do some swings where you go up to the top of the swing, and I'd really focus on getting this trail elbow to work into my body as I'm coming down and rotating. I don't want you to just do that. That's not what I want you to do. I want you to get this. Basically, it's almost like your elbow is chasing your belt buckle. That's the feeling that you want to have, because your belt, you want to be rotating, right? We want to get to where we're rotating. So I want you to feel like your elbow is just trying to chase that belt buckle, and that's going to get you to where you're getting that arm inside there, so it's not getting stuck behind you, and you can rotate through contact. So that's what I'd recommend doing. Pause, go up to the top, come down here, pause, and then swing all the way through. Get comfortable with that. Do some slow motion fluid practice reps where you're trying to replicate that same motion, really coming down, getting that club working down into your side there, feeling like it's chasing your belt buckle as you're coming through. Get it to look good on camera. Speed it up, speed it up, speed it up until you get to full speed with it. Once you're at full speed with it and it all looks good on camera, now add the golf ball and try it with the golf ball there, getting that elbow to work into the body there. And that should help out, because if you're getting stuck, basically it's going to be difficult to get the release to happen. because you're either gonna swing too far into out, or because when you get stuck, you're either gonna do that, or you're gonna swing too far into out, or you're going to compensate. You're gonna get stuck, and then you're gonna go try to get this elbow out away from your body to get the club back on plane, and then you'll end up releasing the club early. So get the elbow working into the body a little bit, and that should help you out a little bit. All right. So Ed D says, question, driver efficiency. How does Clay generate such high yards per mile per hour of club head speed, 348 from 121? Club head speed is 2.87 yards per mile per hour. Is it his new driver? Seems like distance jumped up with it. How can I improve my own driving efficiency? So that's really mainly strike location. Now, I wouldn't expect, if you swing 121 miles per hour, that's not going to be 348 yards every time. You're going to get some that go that far. You're going to get some where, here's some behind the scenes. We typically don't hit on videos with the wind in our face because nobody likes to see drives that go to 287, right? Or 280 or something like that. We like to see drives that are over 300 yards. So typically, if we're set up into the wind, we'll find a different location and set up there. Odds are that day that you're talking about where he hit it 348 yards, because typically you're going to get about 2.6, 2.7 yards per mile per hour. So yeah, 2.87 would have some elements involved in there, and also some good bounces, some big bounces and things like that. So I wouldn't count on 348 yards for 121 miles per hour. But the main thing there is strike location. To get the most efficiency out of the ball or out of your club head speed, you got to be hitting it in the center of the face. That's going to give you the best ball speed from there. That's how you're able to do that. That's how you're able to transfer as much energy to the golf ball as possible. So that's something that's called smash factor. Smash factor is your ratio of your ball speed to your club head speed. Basically, the maximum that you can get with your driver is about 1.5, and that's with all drivers. That's not just the Ping 410 that Clay uses or that I use or any other driver. Basically, any driver that's made by a reputable brand. So you're talking your big brands, you know who they are. Any of the drivers that are made by them are all going to be 1.5 smash factor from the center of the face if they're legal. If they're illegal, you might get considerably more than that, but you're going to get about 1.5. Now, that's not to say you can't ever get more than 1.5 because there are some other things that can become involved. So one is the faultiness of launch monitors in general. They can read your ball speed a little bit higher and your club head speed a little bit lower, and you can end up with a number that's a little bit off. You can also you can get a little bit more ball speed if you strike it a little bit higher on the face and a little bit more toward the toe. That'll give you a little bit more jump off the face. So that's part of it as well. But really, just got to get it in the middle of the face. That's how you're able to transfer that much energy onto the golf ball. That's really the main thing. So an easy way to kind of work on this would be to take some foot powder spray and just spray some foot powder spray on the club face and go out to the range and see where you're striking it on the face. See if you have a tendency to strike it somewhere on the face. If you are striking it low and on the heel, that's a distance killer. You're going to lose a lot of distance. If you're hitting it low on the face at all, you're going to be losing a lot of distance. If you're hitting it in the heel consistently, you're going to be losing a lot of distance. Basically, in the center of the face is going to be a really good center to a little bit higher on the face, to a little bit on the toe, and a little bit higher on the face. Those are going to be basically the best places to strike it. The reason why the toe can be okay to hit it on the face, even though it's not the center, even though you may not be transferring as much, you may not be getting as much energy out of your club head speed, is because the edge of the toe can be moving 7% faster than the center of the face. whereas the edge of the heel can be moving 7% slower. So you can be swinging the geometric center of the face 100 miles per hour, and the edge of the toe can be 107, and the edge of the heel can be 93. Now, obviously, we don't want to be hitting it way out here on the edge of the toe, because when you hit it on the toe or way off the center of the face twists, and you're not able to transfer as much energy to the golf ball. So, but if you go a little bit toward the toe, you'll get a little bit more club head speed, and the face will only twist a little bit. So you may be able to get just a hair more of actual ball speed out of that. So you want to tend to be more in the center to upper toe quadrant, somewhere in that area on the driver face. That's going to give you the most efficient strikes. So that's why I'd recommend doing check where you're seeing it on the face with some foot powder spray, and then adjust your feel to get the desired result that you want. So let's say that you're hitting a bunch of you go out there, you find that you're hitting a bunch of balls on the heel. Well, then what I would try to do is I would try to hit it out on the toe. I'd line up as I normally would, and I would actually try to hit the ball off the toe, and that will most likely move the strike closer to the center of the face or even toward the toe a little bit. And I would just keep doing that until the feel becomes real, until it becomes reality, until more of your shots are getting more in the toe of the club. And then at that point, you can ease off of it a little bit if you're getting too much on the toe. So that's what I'd recommend doing. That's going to give you the by far the most efficiency. The best way to hit it far is, number one, raise your club head speed. Number two, hit it more solid by hitting it in the center of the face. That's really what it comes down to. All right. So Ed D had another question, says, working on the compression line and feel like I'm getting better tilt away. Looks like hands and feels like club is releasing in front on video, but line is just about vertical with the pitching wedge. Should I exaggerate it more, use a different club? With a pitching wedge, you can be pretty vertical. Basically, with irons, you want to be vertical to a little bit angled away. You don't want to be too far leaning forward. You don't want to be too far angled away typically either, but anywhere in that vertical to, I would say, 4 max, maybe 5 degrees angled away. The reasoning is, here's how the compression line kind of dictates things a little bit. One, we want our compression line to be good because we don't want to be bumping out, because if we bump out, we can't rotate. But a main thing that it dictates is our angle of attack, how we're coming into the golf ball. So our angle of attack is the up and down movement of the club as it's coming down into contact. So this would be a downward angle of attack. This would be an upward angle of attack, and this would be a level angle of attack, right? So if I'm more angled toward the target, I'm going to be chopping down into the golf ball. Now, if I'm more angled away from the target, I'm more at an upward angle of attack into the golf ball. So with my driver, the ball is a little bit further up in my stance, right? I can be a little bit more angled away to promote a more upward angle of attack into the golf ball. And then with the iron, because it's on the ground, we're hitting that ball off the ground. The ground's in the way. I can't hit up into the golf ball. I need to hit down into it. So I want my compression line to be a little bit more vertical with my irons, or for any shot I'm hitting off of the turf. And that's going to be with an iron, right? So generally, vertical to slightly angled away is where you want to be. So I would say if you're vertical with your pitching wedge and you're getting good results with it, you're not really chopping down into it when you're coming in, then I would say you're just fine. But if you're getting like really super deep divots, then it may be worth to try and get a little bit more angled away as you're coming into contact to shallow that out a little bit. Because ideally what you'd be doing is you'd just be coming down and just taking that top layer of turf off of there, just like a dollar bill size divot. That's typically what you would want to be doing. Now, the conditions are going to dictate that. If you're in really wet, soft conditions, you're going to take a bigger and deeper divot. And if you're in very dry, firm conditions, you may not take much of a divot at all. You may just barely rough up the turf. So keep that in mind. But that's, in general terms, that's what we want to be doing. So if you're really chopping down into the ball, then I would say, sure, work on your compression line. But if you're getting that nice, good divot there, then I would say you're in good shape with it. All right. So David S. says, what is the name of the practice swing mat you spoke about a week or so ago. I believe you said it was Path Club made contact, and there's a video on the site about it. So that's called the AccuStrike mic, AccuStrike mat. It's actually on the YouTube channel. So if you go to our YouTube channel, you can find a video on it. We don't have anything on the website as of yet, to my knowledge, but on the YouTube channel, you can find it. So just go to YouTube, search Top Speed Golf, find our channel, and go to the latest videos, and you'll be able to see. If you look in the thumbnails, you can see what I'm talking about. We actually have a couple videos. I think we did one last week that came out on it, or maybe the week before. And then there was another one probably a month ago. But if you look in the description of the video on YouTube, you can find the purchase links where you can go get that. And then if you use our promo code, I believe it's Clay Ballard Indoor if you're getting the indoor one, and Clay Ballard Outdoor if you're getting the outdoor one. I believe you get like $5 off or $7 off. The outdoor one, it's like $50, and I think you get $5 off. We do get a little bit of a kickback from that. So just a disclaimer there, we do make a little bit of money on every single one. But it's not a lot of money, and it's not worth us. We get a lot of training aids sent to us. Clay's garage is literally just full of training aids. So we have a lot that we could have affiliate deals with every single one of those, but we don't. We just do the ones that we think that really help people. So that's why we have an affiliate deal with them. But find that link, use the promo code if you want to get a couple bucks off, and you want to help the channel out a little bit. David F says, thanks regarding the straight line release. I have a very good power turn and lag. It's my downswing at issue. My hands tend to change downward path, dropping behind me, and then turn around my body too quickly. So you're probably coming down steep. It's hard to say without seeing your swing, but a lot of times what happens when you come down and your hands kind of drop, see what happens to the club. It gets steep. And then when you get steep, you have to, you have to shallow out the club late, essentially. So we want to shallow out that club earlier, like we talked about in the move course, and then get that club to release out from there. So David F., you may want to go take a look at the move course and work through some of those drills. One thing that people get confused very often is that they in an effort to shallow out the club, they shallow out the hands way too much. So they think, okay, I need to get this club like this to where it's shallowed out. So they get the club way behind them. Well, most people, when they get the club way behind them, actually steepen the club. And that's working against you. And that's going to get things working too far behind you. So essentially what you want is this club kind of more or less kind of in this position right here, kind of more straight in front of, if you're looking from a down line view, it's going to look more or less kind of just in front of your chest. And then you want the club shallowed out like that. That's where you want it. You don't want the club way behind you like that and then steep. So that may be what's going on there, is you may have the hands way too far behind you. So get the club a little bit more in front, most likely, and get this club shallowing out. And that's going to be in the move course if you want to work through that. Easy way to get to the move course. Click the instruction tab at the top of the screen there. Click on the Top Speed Golf system, and then click on the move from there. All right. So, and continue to get your questions on here. We got about 30 minutes left. I got one question on here right now. So if you got a question, go ahead and post it on there, and we'll be happy to answer. I do have to go right at 6 o'clock. So try not to get the questions like all in there with like a minute left, because they may not get answered if you do that. So get your questions on there so make sure that they get answered today. All right. So Vahab A says, and I apologize if I'm mispronouncing your name, says, I've added more lag at the start of my downswing by rotating my wrist and tucking my elbow in. At what point do you start focusing on forward shaft lean? I tend to fade or hook, which tells me my timing is off. So yeah, if you're getting lag, then I would say that you're ready to start working on some forward shaft lean. As long as your compression line is good, make sure you're good there. Compression line, we talked about. We want to be in a nice straight line here from my ankle, my hip to my shoulder. Want to be in a nice straight line, slightly angled away from the target. Typically, we just talked about a minute ago, you can be more vertical with an iron, more angled away with a driver to promote a more upward or downward angle of attack. But for the most part, slightly angled away is going to work with pretty much all clubs. So you want to make sure that you're not bumped out like this, or the hips aren't square at contact, meaning I'm not looking like this when I'm coming into contact. I look like I'm actually opening up as I'm coming into contact. So I'd be looking at that and make sure that you're good to go there. But that's what I'd recommend doing. That's going to help you to get there. But then I would start working on the straight line release course. If you look good there, the straight line release course, basically having a forward shaft lean is a result of having having a good straight line release. Because if you look here, if I'm coming into contact, right, I'm releasing this club out in front. So my straight line release is where the club is splitting my forearms. That's about 45 degrees out in front. So if I rewind this now to contact, here I am at contact. Look, I have forward shaft lean. And I fast forward to the straight line release. It's right there. If I'm releasing this club early, you can see I don't have forward shaft lean. I'm at contact. I'm basically releasing right at the golf ball. So I want to get this club releasing out in front so I can have forward shaft lean. That's going to be in the straight line release course. You can also work on the move course. The move course is going to help you to get the club shallowed out and squaring earlier so that you can have forward shaft lean at impact. So if you're finding that the straight line release course isn't quite working for you, it may be you may be coming down steep and or pushing the hands through, squaring the club face by flipping through contact. So you may want to work through the move course as well. So to get to any of those courses, all you got to do is click the instruction tab at the top of the screen, then click Top Speed Golf System. And then from there, you can either kick the compression line if you need it. That'd be the first thing I would look at. The second thing I'd look at is straight line release. Give that a try. And then the third thing I'd look at is the move course, which you'll find right there as well. All right. So Manish P says, many ranges are closed for COVID. Advice for practicing indoors when you can't see ball flight. That's a good question. So one thing I keep in mind is that you can do all of the Top Speed Golf System without hitting a golf ball. You can just work on the positions and getting in the right positions. You can work on getting your spine angle correct at the top of the swing and into impact. You can work on getting a good power turn. You can do this all just doing practice swings. No hitting golf balls is required. All you got to do is work on getting in the positions and work your way through the system. So that's one thing I'd recommend doing. If you have some space in your house or some carpet or whatever, you can work on some putting. Do some putting around the house, some chipping around the house and things like that. You can definitely do that. Now, if you have a net set up with a ball, you can work on making solid contact with it. You may not be able to see the ball flight. There's not a lot you can do about that unless you have some sort of simulator or something like that. But you can have a good idea of whether you hit it solid or not. And you can look at that by your strike location. So there's a couple ways that you can do that. One, you can use foot powder spray it on the club face, hit the ball. You'll see exactly where you struck it on the club face. You can use impact tape. It's not my preferred method, but you can use impact tape. Another way you can do it is what I call the dot method. And that is where you just take a dry erase marker or a washable marker and grab a ball here. So if you grab a marker, so if I have like a dry erase marker here, I would take that and I just put a heavy dot on the golf ball. And then I would set up that dot to where it will rub off on the face when I hit it. So when I come in and I hit the ball, that'll rub off on the face and I'll be able to see exactly where I struck it on there. And if you use a dry erase or a washable marker, it'll just wipe right off. But what I like, part of the reason why I like that is that I can hit a bunch of shots and then I can kind of see where I'm striking it all over the face and I won't have to wipe it off. And then once I'm done, I can just wipe it off. You can use a Sharpie. It's just a little bit harder to wipe off the face. But that's why I recommend a dry erase or washable marker, because then you can just wipe it right off the face. So you can see where your strike location is. That AccuStrike mat that I just mentioned, that's a really good one. It will show you if you are making ball first contact. It will show you if your club path is in to out or out to in or on plane. It will show you if you're hitting it in the center of the face. So it'll give you a good idea of that as well. So I recommend the AccuStrike mat. It's a very cool training aid, especially for working at home into a net or something like that. So I definitely recommend that. Like I said, you can go to our YouTube channel. Just go to youtube.com and search Top Speed Golf, and you can find our channel. And then it's you'll see in the thumbnails of the videos. Just go to our latest videos. You'll see what I'm talking about. It's in the thumbnail of the video. We got a couple iron videos, but you'll see the mat in the thumbnail of the video. And then if you go to the description below the video, you'll be able to find the purchase links, the discount links. And again, we do get a kickback from that, but it's not a ton. So we wouldn't put our reputation on it if we didn't think it was a great training aid. So that's also something you can do. The 20-minute distance fix is something you can do as well. So working through the 20-minute distance fix. If you have a swing speed radar, you can work through that, hitting into a net, just working on getting your speed stuff. So it's almost unlimited the amount of things that you can do. In fact, it may be a good change of pace for you to kind of practice in that way, as opposed to just kind of beating balls at the range and seeing the ball flight, trying to hit it straight every single time. It's actually one of the worst ways that you can practice. Better than doing nothing for sure, but it's one of the worst ways that you can practice. All right. So Ed D says, is it possible to start pushing the hips open too early? You want some bend in the lead knee at impact, right? Mine is pretty much straight at impact. So it's possible to have the hips too open in a sense, but really you can't have the hips too open as long as your upper body is in sync with your lower body. So if you're opening up your hips so much that your upper body cannot be in sync with your lower body, then yes, you are opening up your hips too much. You may need to ease off of it or try to get your upper body more in sync with your lower body. But if you look at Dustin Johnson, right? Dustin Johnson's coming into contact and his hips are 70 degrees open at contact, right? So, for most people, if they got their hips that much open, they wouldn't be able to get, most people just can't get into that position to begin with. But that's what I'm saying. Like there's no really limit to it. It's just a matter of what can you sync up. It's different for everybody. So in general, I would try to have the hips about 40 to 50 degrees open at contact with your upper body in sync with that. That's basically what you see with your your average tour player or average really good ball striker. That's typically what you're going to see. So that's what I would recommend for most people. But hey, if you're super flexible, you may be able to get your body more open than that and be able to get into a better position at contact. So it's really dependent on the individual. And yes, you do want to have a slight bend. Basically, you want the leg to be straightening out as you're coming into contact, not completely straight, because if your leg is completely straight at contact, that means that you haven't, it means that you still have, you basically used all your rotation, essentially. That's basically what happened. Now, typically, I don't see the hips open too much at this point in the swing, but I've also seen players where the lead leg is pretty straight at contact. Look at Brooks Koepka. His lead leg is pretty much dead straight at contact. So it doesn't mean it is for everybody, but typically what you're going to see is as you're coming into contact, you're going to see a little bit of bend in that lead leg. Let me angle this down a little bit. You're going to see a little bit of bend in that lead leg. So I'm coming in, I'm going to have a little bit of bend. Then you'll see in the straight line release where it more or less straightens out. It's going to be pretty darn straight typically in that straight line release position. Then after that, you're going to be coming around into the full finish. If you're coming in and you are, most of the time when I see that lead leg straight, it's from not rotating. It's from kind of doing this action where we're kind of doing the thrusting motion. So typically when I see that lead leg straight, it's when people are going like this. They're not rotating their hips. They're actually kind of thrusting their hips forward instead of getting down and rotating the body open. That's typically what I've seen when the lead leg is straight. It's pretty rare that I would actually see the lead leg straightening out. Actually, I'm not even sure if I'm trying to recall. I don't think I've ever seen the lead leg completely straightened out and that's made you to over rotate your hips. Like I typically don't see that. But hey, you may be super flexible and be able to do that. That's completely fine. As long as you are completely, if you're opening up, that's fine. But if you're in this kind of position where your legs straighten out and you're actually kind of doing the hip thrust motion, then that's not good. You don't want to be doing that. That's early extension. There's a lot of reasons you may be doing that. You could be coming down steep. There's all kinds of things you could be doing. I would need to see your swing to actually know what's going on there. But most likely you're coming down steep and you need to get the closed shallowing out. You can work on that through the move course. To get to the move, click the instruction tab at the top of the screen, go to the Top Speed Golf System, then click on the move from there. You can also, if you want me to see your swing, I do have an unlimited swing review program. I don't have any spots available right now, but if you want to get on my waiting list, I can, we'll send out an email whenever I open up spots, and you can join at that time, hopefully. Again, it's first come, first serve. So I've sold out to the waiting list every single time. So if you are interested in doing swing reviews with me, you need to make sure you join that waiting list. Otherwise, you may not ever get notified that I have spots available. So make sure that you join that waiting list. All you got to do is click the Get a Review tab at the top of the screen and scroll down. You'll see my picture there. And you'll see where you can join the waiting list, or if there's a spot, grab the spot, and we'll get started. But I don't think I have any spots open at the moment. All right. So Marilyn H says, I'm having trouble hitting 3-wood off the fairway on uneven lies. That's everybody. I move the ball to the center of my stance, but tend to dig or top the ball. That's just hitting a 3-wood off the ground is one of the toughest shots out there. And then you throw an uneven lie in there on top of it. It just makes it more difficult. So you're not alone. Pretty much everyone has trouble with that shot. It's not a shot that's definitely easy. But if you want to gain a little bit more control with it, what I'd recommend doing is just choking up a little bit, choking up on the club. That may give you a little bit more control. A little bit more control with what you're doing. And then for uphill, downhill, side hill, though, if you want to have a good understanding of how to hit all of those shots, I'd recommend going to our special shots vault. The easiest way to get to that is to click the instruction tab at the top of the screen, then go to vault categories, and then scroll through the categories. They're in alphabetical order, and you'll see special shots. Clay has individual videos for hitting off of uphill, downhill, side hill, all those lies. Just follow those rules in there. But just keep in mind that hitting a 3-wood off of an uneven lie is really, really tough. And if you're hitting a lot of 3-woods, that's most likely because you don't have a lot of club head speed, right? If you're in a position where you have to hit a lot of 3-woods, it's most likely because you don't have a lot of club head speed and you need to hit 3-wood to get the ball to go as far as you can. So what I'd recommend doing is actually working on our 20-minute distance fix course, because that can help you get some distance, and so that you don't have to hit 3-wood as much. You can hit, you can probably hit a hybrid or gain some distance and maybe hit a 6-iron instead or something like that. I would recommend working through our 20-minute distance fix, because that's going to really help you with your game quite a bit. So instead of learning how to hit a really difficult shot, it may be a lot easier for you to learn how to hit the ball further, and that way you don't have to hit as difficult of a shot as often. So I'd recommend working through the 20-minute distance fix. Very, very good program to increase your club head speed and distance. And that's not just with the driver. This is all clubs. When you gain club head speed with your driver, it's going to be through the bag. You're going to get everything. So highly recommend that course. To get to that course, just click the instruction tab at the top of the screen there, and then click 20-minute distance fix to get started. All right. So Chris S. said, just finished my second week of your distance course. Awesome, Chris. Hopefully it's going good. So Thomas J. Says, tend to push my putts. I can compensate by aiming to the left of the hole, but that seems like treating the system instead of the cause. I'm a right-hander and use a reverse overlapping grip. Strengthening my hand did not help. I tried left hand low and claw grip, but they don't suit me. Thomas, I would first make sure that you are actually lining up where you think you are lining up. I actually have a tendency to what I thought was pull all my putts, but then I realized that I was just lining up left on all my putts. I was making a good putt. I was making a good stroke and everything. I was just lined up. I would miss a ton of putts to the left. So you may be just aiming to the right a lot, and it's not really a push that's going on. It's really just, you're really just, aiming wrong. So I would go out there, check your alignment. A way that you can do that is with a putting mirror. I thought I had one handy around here somewhere. Might have lost it. But anyway, a putting mirror, get it perfectly lined up. Find a dead straight putt. About 8 feet should do. Find a putting mirror and get that set up to where it's right at the hole. And then you'll find that you're set up correctly there. You can use a chalk, so a string chalk. Get it. Find a dead straight putt. Pull out the chalk and then snap the string, and you'll have a perfectly straight line there. Just find a dead straight putt and get your alignment kind of figured out. And if you do that, you'll more than likely, I imagine you'll find that you're probably lining up to the right, and you're actually not pushing your putts. You're just lining up to the right and missing all your putts that way. That would be my guess of what's going on. But otherwise, yeah, I would, if you're pushing all your putts, you're most likely not pushing your putts, but I would recommend doing some variability training where you line up normally and then actually try to miss some putts to the left and to the right of the hole. Like open the face, close the face, because what you're doing right now, you feel like you're coming in straight back and straight through square club face, but the reality is you may be bringing it back and then opening the face. So you need to feel like you're bringing it back and closing the face to get that face square. And you just do that until you start pulling putts. But I would put money on you're actually probably lining up incorrectly. You're probably hitting good putts. You're just lining up incorrectly. All right. So Earl C says, do you know if there's a problem with the AccuStrike Mac moving indoors garage? I see outdoor one has a way to put a pin in it. I haven't used it indoors on the garage, but I don't really think it moves around. If not, you can just get some Velcro. You can buy Velcro super cheap, Walmart or something like that. You can even probably get it on Amazon. It's like double-sided tape. Stick some on the garage floor. Stick some on the mat. Velcro it on there. You're good to go. It's not going to go anywhere. But I don't think it really. I think it's got a decent amount of weight to it, so it doesn't really move around much. And even if it does, I mean, it's going to be after you've hit it. So it's not going to be moving around while you're hitting it, which is the main thing. So, yeah, I think it's probably completely fine. All right. So Ronald H says, after making a proper power turn, should the backswing be furthered by pushing the arms up and over the right shoulder to the maximum extent? Also, let me answer that question first. So the backswing is not just turning your shoulders; it's also lifting the arms. So yes, we do need to be lifting the arms. You want to think of the backswing of more like a Ferris wheel, right? So a Ferris wheel is lifting and rotating, right? What you're talking about there is more of a merry-go-round. That's just rotating. So if you're a merry-go-round, you're going to be more like this, right? So I'm just rotating in the backswing. If you are a Ferris wheel, you're going to be more like this, where I'm lifting and rotating. And that's going to allow you to have more space and time to accelerate the club. So we actually have a great drill for this in the 20-minute distance fix. In the 20-minute distance fix course, it's called the skyscraper drill. So we want to feel like our knuckles are going up to the sky, like we're punching through the sky. That's the feeling that we want to have. And the reason why we want to do that, and why that's important for distance is so that you have more space and time to accelerate the club. So if my hands are up here versus down here, I have a lot more space and time to accelerate the club. The more space and time you have to accelerate the club, the more speed you can generate. Imagine getting on the interstate, right? You're getting on the ramp. If that ramp was really, really short to get on the interstate, you wouldn't be able to accelerate enough to get up to speed. But if you have plenty of time to accelerate your car, you can be up to speed by the time you get on the interstate. So that's what getting the hands up higher is going to do. That's also what getting a big shoulder turn is going to do. It's giving you more space and time to accelerate the club. So I recommend working through our skyscraper drill in the 20-minute distance fix course. I believe it's in week 3 of the course. All you got to do is click the instruction tab at the top of the screen, then go to the 20-minute distance fix, and then go to week 3 when you're in there, and you'll see the skyscraper drill. But I just recommend working through the whole thing for sure. And then he goes on to say, also in the backswing, once one rotates up, should the club always remain perpendicular to the arms and not allowed to loosen in the wrists to achieve even further rotation parallel to the ground at the top. So as you go up to the top, the club is definitely going to be hinging, right? You definitely want the club to be hinging. So at address, right, I'm a little bit like this, which is ulnar deviation, where the thumb is going out away from me a little bit. So at address, I'm like this. As I go up to the top of the swing, the club basically goes up like this. So if I don't have any rotation in the swing and no lifting of the arms or anything like this, if the golf swing was literally just the wrist hinge, it would look like this, right? So you can see there, I've less than a 90-degree angle there between my lead forearm and the shaft. But now, if I lift my arms up and then add rotation, here I am at the top of the swing in a perfect position. So yes, the club, there's definitely going to be some hinging, some thumbs up, which is radial deviation, where we're doing thumbs up toward me. That's happening at the top of the swing for sure. And that's how you're able to generate lag in the downswing. And then as you come through contact, you're into the straight line release, your hands are going back into ulnar deviation, thumbs down, out, away from you. So there's actually a great drill. It's called the thumbs up, thumbs down drill. That's in the Top Speed Lag course that you may want to work on. If you go to the instruction tab, the instruction tab at the top of the screen, go to Top Speed Golf System, and go to Top Speed Lag. I can't remember exactly where that thumbs up, thumbs down drill is in the Top Speed Lag section, but it is in there. Just kind of expand the whole course, and you'll see. Just look through the videos, and you'll see the one that I'm talking about. That's going to help you get that wrist hinge there that I'm talking about. So Chris S. says, just finished second week of your distance fix. Do you recommend not watching any other videos until you finish the course? It really depends on what kind of time you have to practice. I mean, if you are, if you have a ton of time to practice, which I know some of us may have a little bit more time now that if we're quarantined and can't work or do anything like that, you might have a little bit more time to practice at home. So you can kind of separate your speed training. So I would just separate it. I would do some speed training and then maybe work on a piece of the Top Speed Golf System, or work on something that you see in your swing that you saw in a video or in a vault or in one of the courses or something like that. If you're struggling with a slice, you may want to work on some speed training and then work on the never slice again course. You may want to work on, if you're hooking, if you're chunking or topping, you may want to work on the stop chunking and topping course along with the speed course, the 20-minute distance fix. You may want to work on your putting. You may want to work on your chipping, your wedge game, whatever it might be. You can absolutely work on it. It's just a matter of how much time you have. So the 20-minute distance fix is basically asking for an hour or so a week. So if you have more time than that, it's basically 20, 30 minutes for every range session. There's 2 range sessions per week. So you're talking there's about an hour there. And then, top side, I would say it's probably 2 hours. Then you have the home course or the home session that you do. And then you have the content that you watch. So all in all, I would say it's probably about 2 hours. I know I said an hour a minute ago, but it's actually, now that I think about it, it's more like probably two hours a week. So if you have more than 2 hours a week to devote to something, to practicing golf, then you can work on, I would just work on them separately. It's a different kind of training. Your speed training is going to be different than your putting training or your slicing or your hooking or whatever it might be. Stable fluid spine, your technique training, it's going to be different than that. I would just separate them and work on them individually. So, but yeah, absolutely. You can work on different things for sure. All right. So Ed D says, thanks for your answers. Very helpful, Q. Could you comment on my plan to finish the Klein in stable fluid spine reps, then get some swing reviews, and then do the 20-minute distance fix? Club head speed is 102, 108 now. All right, let me read that again. Could you comment on my plan to finish the, I think he's saying the Sudafly spine reps, then get some swing reviews, then do the 20-minute distance fix? Yeah, I mean, whatever. I mean, if you feel like you need some help, then that's what the swing reviews are for. One of the best things that you can do, if you feel like you're getting stuck and you don't know, basically the swing reviews are for people they're just trying to either go to the next level or make sure that they're nailing everything. We have everything set up on the site to where you can do it on your own. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But if you want to accelerate your progress, make sure that you're on the right track, or make sure that you're working on the things that are definitely going to help your game the most. Having an instructor is going to be the best way to go, doing the unlimited swing reviews. But, if you feel like you have a good handle on that, then it may be best to not do the swing reviews. It's really completely up to you. But the best way to go through the 20-minute distance fix is to do it with an instructor, to make sure that you're getting the most out of it. Because I'm going to be able to see things in your swing that you may not be able to see, or maybe you can. If you have a really good handle on your swing and understand what you're doing, then maybe you do will have a good idea, but it just depends on the person. But I would say, yeah, I'd be happy to work with you. I don't have spots available right now, but I'd recommend joining the waiting list, so that way you get notified whenever I open up spots, so that you can join up. Because like I said, we haven't sent we've only sent emails out to the waiting list, and it's sold out to the waiting list every single time. So if you don't sign up for the waiting list, you may never get notified if I have spots available. So definitely recommend doing that so that you can get notified. But yeah, I mean, if you get hung up, you don't know what to do, the swing reviews are good. If you just want to be told what you need to be doing, you want to make sure you're doing the best thing to improve your game, that's what the swing reviews are for. But the website's really set up for you. We have all these courses. They're meant for you to be able to go through them on your own. But, if you want to accelerate your progress, then definitely doing swing reviews can help with that. And then Vahab, and I apologize if I mispronounced. I feel like I'm really butchering your name. I'm really sorry. So do you have a recommended approach to top speed golf courses, or focus on what you think you need? What I'd recommend doing is I would get an understanding for what the top speed golf system is. I would get an understanding of what it is. So to do that, I would just watch a lot of the videos so that you understand. And just quickly, what I'd recommend doing is look at your swing on video and see where you stack up with the top speed golf system. And I would look at it in order. So if you look at your spine angles and everything with your spine angles look good, then go on to the next piece. Go on to the power turn. But if you look at your spine angles and something's off, then you need to go work on the stable fluid spine and get it in good order. But once it's in good, then look at your power turn. If you go to stable fluid spine, you look at your swing, spine's good, power turn's good, and your lag isn't really good, then let's work on some lag. You got to look at your swing and know and understand the top speed golf system and understand what it is, and then look at your swing. And we tell you what to look for in the tests. So I would just look at the tests probably for every level, see where you're at, then look at your swing on video and see where you're at with that, and then keep on working down the line. What I highly recommend you not do is look at your stable fluid spine and think, it's not where it's supposed to be, but it's close. And then go on to the power turn and say, oh, my power turn's good. And then you look at your lag and like, I don't have a lot of lag, but I have some. And then you don't think, and then you get to your release and you're releasing it like this, like you're releasing it really, really early. And then you think, I got to go to my straight line release and work on that. That's not what you need to do. Because like I mentioned earlier, you got to make sure the other pieces are happening before you do the straight line release. So make sure that you're nailing your spine angle, make sure that you're nailing the power turn, make sure you're nailing lag, make sure you're nailing the compression line before you do the straight line release. It is the number one mistake I see people do is they see that early release and they're not getting a lot of lag, their spine angles are off, they're not getting a very good power turn, and they're going to the straight line release because to them, and it's completely understandable, to them it's the most egregious of the faults in their swing. And that is true. It may be the most egregious, but it is because you're not doing the other pieces correctly. And most likely what will happen is that you'll get your spine angle good, you'll get your lag good, and your straight line release all on its own without you having to directly work on it will improve. And then when you go to the straight line release to actually work on it, it will be much easier to get in the position. Otherwise, it will be dang near impossible to get it to happen. So that's what I would recommend doing. Get familiar with the top speed golf system. Look at your swing on video. Go through them in order: stable fluid spine, power power turn, lag, compression line, then the straight line release. Go through them in that order. Make sure you're good to go on each one before you go on to the next one. And then that'd be the way that I would recommend going through it. All right. So we got a couple more questions here from Jim and S, and then we'll wrap it up for today. So Jim says, just throwing this out, I got an eye line alignment mirror, and I found how important it is to have the eyes in the right line and level. Made big improvements in putting. Yeah, so that could be, Jim, thanks for sharing. There was someone who mentioned how they were pushing a lot of putts, and that could have a lot to do with it. Typically, you want your eyes to be either straight down on top of the ball or an inch or so inside the ball. If you're too far over the ball that way, it's going to skew things. It's going to make things look not the best. And if you're too far, on this side of the ball, again, it's just not, the line's not going to look right. So typically, we want to be either straight down, our eyes straight down on top of the ball, or slightly inside the ball. That's going to give us the best look at that line. So, Jim, thanks for sharing there. That's definitely getting one of those mirrors that shows you exactly where your eyes are coming down or looking down. That's going to give you a good idea there. So John W. says, my son is taking up the game. He is working through the system, but is constantly topping the ball with his irons. Thoughts? He's probably not getting a good weight shift to his lead side. That's almost always from not getting a good weight shift. So I'd make sure that he's getting that good weight shift to his lead side. I recommend doing the step drill. If you've ever played any baseball in his life, it's really kind of easy. The same thing as a baseball swing, right? So for a baseball swing, I'm shifting my weight forward and stepping my foot in the ground. You can kind of tell him, if he's played any baseball or Little League baseball or anything like that, it's the same thing with the golf swing. We want to feel like we're sticking that foot in the ground and coming all the way through. He's probably hanging back here and then throwing the arms at it and hitting a lot of chunks and tops and things like that. So that's what I'd recommend doing. Get that good weight shift to the lead side. You can work through some of the drills in the stop chunking and topping course. He may not be chunking, but topping is almost the same thing as chunking the ball. So that's what I'd recommend doing. So yeah, go to the stop chunking and topping course. That's going to be a really good one for you. You can get to that course. All you got to do is click the house icon at the top of the page there. That will take you to the homepage. If you scroll down the homepage, you'll see all of the courses that are included in your membership. There's 20 plus courses there. Click that stop chunking and topping course and start working through the drills in there. There's a good step drill in there to get your son to be getting his weight shift to the lead side. But I think if you give him that baseball analogy, it may really help him if he played baseball when he was younger. So one more, looks like Manish P, and then we'll wrap it up here. So Manish P says, I did swing reviews with Q last year for a few months. Made a big difference, helped me to identify flaws, and more importantly, how to fix flaws on my own. Q really knows his stuff. Manish, thanks, buddy. Glad it helped. I hope you're playing great and hope you're healthy and everything. So thanks for the comment and thanks for sharing. Yeah, I've worked with a lot of people. So yeah, if you want to do swing reviews with me, I would love to work with you too. Unfortunately, there is a limited number of people that I can work with. Otherwise, I would never get to sleep. So, but yeah, whenever I open up spots, we always send out an email. So join that waiting list because we always send it out to them first because we know that those are the folks that are the most interested. So join that waiting list so that way you can get notified whenever I open up spots. Otherwise, there's a good chance you may not get notified at all, and you may just have to get lucky and find that I have a spot available. But if you want to go over there and join my waiting list, click the Get a Review at the top of the screen. That'll take you to the swing review page, and you can scroll down there. We also have other instructors too. We have Robin. He's our director of instruction here in Orlando. I don't know if he has any spots available, but you can join his waiting list. We also have a new instructor, Chris Hunsaker, who he just got started with us. He got filled up very, very quickly as well. Hopefully he'll be opening up some spots here soon so people can join. Excellent golfer, probably the best golfer on the team now. He's shot 59, I know, in a tournament. He may have shot multiple rounds in the 50s. He's played in the senior U.S. Open. So really, really good player. And I'm sure he has a lot that he can share with you as well. So if you're interested in getting on his waiting list, you can get on his waiting list as well. So thanks everybody for joining me today. We'll be back here tomorrow, 9 a.m. Eastern time. Until then, everybody stay healthy and stay well, and I will talk to you next time.